Bountygate continues. You remember from last month, we had this brand new avenue of Russiagate that allegedly the Russians had put bounties on the heads of U.S. soldiers, and Rachel Maddow just like creamed her pants. She was like, "Oh, finally, new Russiagate material." Well, check this out, man. Check this out. You ready? We have a new issue. Look at the headline. U.S. intelligence indicates Iran paid bounties to the Taliban for targeting American troops. Man, just like I said, they copy-pasted the article and just changed it from Russia to Iran. I'm not kidding. Look at this. U.S. intelligence indicates Russia paid bounties to target U.S. troops. It's the same headline. They just changed the country. I mean, they're not even trying at this point. It's ridiculous. They're not even trying, man. Complete, utter nonsense.
CNN has just learned that an assessment by U.S. intelligence agencies has found that Iran, in addition to Russia, also paid bounties to Taliban fighters to target U.S. and coalition troops in Afghanistan. CNN's Alex Marquardt is live in Washington with the breaking details. What are you to understand, Alex?
Good morning, Allison. That's right. Not just Russian bounties, as you mentioned, but we're also talking about Iranian bounties on U.S. forces. We've learned that Iran has also been paying Taliban fighters to target American and allied troops in Afghanistan in exchange for bounties. That is the phrasing from the Pentagon. Now, last year alone, in 2019, U.S. intelligence identified payments linked to at least 6 attacks. One of them was a highly sophisticated attack in December at Bagram Air Base. That is the most prominent U.S. base in Afghanistan. That attack killed 2 civilians and injured dozens, including 4 American personnel. It was so sophisticated that U.S. airstrikes had to be called in to kill the Taliban attackers. Now, the name of the country that made those payments to the Haqqani network, which is a branch of the Taliban, is classified. But 2 sources who are familiar with the intelligence told my colleague, Zach Cohen, that it refers to Iran. So then the question became how to respond to...
No. Stop it right there. What did he say? Let me repeat that.
Who are familiar with the intelligence told my colleague of the country that made those payments to the Haqqani network, which is a branch of the Taliban, is classified. But 2 sources who are familiar with the intelligence told my colleague, Zach Cohen, that it...
Wait, what? 2 of the sources who are familiar with the intelligence told my colleagues. So a friend of a friend. You don't even know where this fucking information is coming from. How could you verify that it's Iran? You can't. You have no clue. Where's the proof? Where's the proof? Where was the proof for the Russian allegation? Man, this is garbage. This is the Daily Mail. Well, it's CNN. It's close enough. Oh my God. They can't quit.
Refers to Iran. So then the question became how to respond to those bounties on American troops. This past March, after a process that lasted around 3 months, multiple sources told CNN that the decision was made not to take specific action because it could jeopardize the U.S. peace process with the Taliban. This is how one source described that months-long debate. The object of concern was the relationship between Iran and the Taliban, because it seemed like one that in any other year would have merited pretty concerted action. The overarching element to all of this has been the prioritization of the peace deal with the Taliban, and that even going back to December 2019 was a well-known priority in terms of what the U.S. response would be to a potential incentivized attack backed by a foreign government. Now, according to an internal memo that CNN obtained, the National Security Council did acknowledge that the relationship between Iran and the Haqqani network posed a significant threat to U.S. interests, but responding, that the NSC felt, would negatively impact those peace efforts. Now, one current and another former administration official, they both tell CNN that the link between Iran and the Taliban was part of the argument for the U.S. killing of the Iranian general Qasem Soleimani. Or remember, that took place back in January. But the fact that Iran paid the Taliban for that attack at Bagram in December.
No. You see, you need to pay attention, man. Do you see how he's mixing up a salad here? He said that there was an internal memo from the National Security Council saying that there was some kind of a relationship between Iran and the Haqqani network. Them having a relationship is not what you're talking about. You said Iran put out bounties on American soldiers. Those are two completely different things. What is the relationship? Do they play chess with each other? What is the relationship? That doesn't mean anything. The memo didn't say Iran is putting out bounties on American troops. They're trying to put that in there and slide that in there as if it's, oh, you see, they have like a relationship, bro, so obviously it's true. No? What?
Document from the Pentagon. They said that it probably incentivizes future high-profile attacks on U.S. and coalition forces. Now, in the days that followed that attack in December, U.S. officials, including Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, they condemned the attack, but the wounded Americans were never mentioned, nor was Iran. Now, we should note that we did hear back from the Pentagon, from a spokesman named Major Rob Lodwick. He said in part that the administration has repeatedly demanded, both publicly and privately, that Iran cease its scourge of malign and destabilizing behavior throughout the Middle East and the world, and that Iran seeks to undermine.
Look, man, that doesn't mean anything. That sounds like random statement that any administration always makes about Iran. It doesn't mean anything. And it makes no mention of these bounties. Once again, complete bullshit. And then, did you notice how they're trying to blame their war crimes, their assassination of General Qasem Soleimani on these imaginary bounties? No. The role that Qasem Soleimani played, he's heading the Quds force, okay? This force is to coordinate resistance efforts in the Middle East. What the fuck does it have to do with the bounties in Afghanistan? What? Nah. I don't believe that for 1 second, and they don't even have proof. Complete, utter gibberish. And they're just trying to shift the blame. Oh, you see, we had to kill him, man, because he did it, even though we have zero evidence. They're just shoveling shit and trying to make a house of cards. No, it's ridiculous, man. Complete garbage. And it's always the same way, man. It's always, sources within the intelligence community. That doesn't mean anything because you said that for WMDs. You also told us there were sources inside the intelligence community who knew for a fact Saddam's nuclear weapons. Yeah, it turns out that's bullshit. And the same thing with the Russian bounties a month ago, because you had top brass generals coming out and saying, well, those claims were unfounded. And then the whole story disappeared in 72 hours. It's gone. And this one will be the same thing. What they're trying to do here is incite anti-Russian, anti-Iranian sentiment. That's all it is. It's just brainwashing. You call this reporting? Not one shred of evidence. Zero. And we know for a fact that the CIA feed them bullshit on purpose. You remember that video I showed you? You had a CIA station chief talking about how they manipulate the press. They'll feed them a few stories that are true and then mix in some bullshit. Because that way they get them hooked, right? They start trusting them as sources. And so when it comes time to feed them propaganda, stuff that's completely unfounded, they'll take it. They'll take the bait. Or it gets to a point where it's just blatantly clear that I need you to publish this bunch of lies. Do it. They have a whole network all across the globe. Of course. Let me remind you what's going on with the media in regards to Iran at the moment.
So Iran is the world's greatest sponsor of terrorism.
Because Iran is the leading state sponsor of terrorism.
Against the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism.
Iran is the leading state sponsor of terrorism.
The world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. The world's largest state sponsor of terrorism.
Brainwashing. Just complete nonsense, man. This story is going to be gone in 72 hours, just like the Russian bounty ones. Once again, they don't even know if it's true. They have no clue. They say the revelation that Iran might have paid the Taliban. Well, hold on a second. You didn't say they might have done it. You said they did it. And then, look, they mentioned this sophisticated attack. What does that have to do with bounties? Every guerrilla force, every militia, every enemy that you face is going to come up with sophisticated attacks. A sophisticated attack is not bounties. The whole thing is bullshit. It's just an entire pack of lies. They're trying to support this so badly, they're just grasping at straws. Look, they had a special relationship and there was this sophisticated attack. Yeah, none of that has anything to do with hit jobs and scalping soldiers. What are you talking about? Complete, utter nonsense. You know what's ironic? They're saying that, oh, well, these claims about the bounties were downplayed because they didn't want to disrupt the peace process. No. You don't know if that story is even true because you can't even prove it. You are the one disrupting the peace process. That's why the fucking intelligence community is giving you this shit. They don't want the war to end, right? So when we're talking about peace process, you had a conference in Qatar, in Doha, and just like a week before, you have this story come out that, oh, Russia was paying them money to scalp our soldiers, and now Iran is doing it too. Again, oh God, I can't stand this, dude. This is garbage, and they call this reporting. Complete garbage. And you know, I want to point out another important thing that it goes over a lot of people's heads. I can assure you, most of the resistance they're facing, all of the resistance, they don't need to be paid. You're illegally occupying their country. That's enough to piss them off. They don't need to be paid money to resist you. Hello? I mean, how are people not seeing this? You've been in their country, you've been in Afghanistan for 20 fucking years. Of course they're pissed off. You don't need to bribe them to be pissed off at you. You piss them off because you're in their country illegally and you keep bombing the shit out of them, drone striking them. And it's so funny how they talk about this completely unfounded allegation about scalps and bounties and make no mention of the war crimes that have been committed by British Special Forces, Australian Special Forces, US Special Forces, not a peep. If you haven't seen it, go and watch the video, go and watch the report that I did about this and the cover-up from the UK and Australian governments. Rachel Maddow, oh, she's going to have a field day with this one again.